Hello all, just a quick explainer for you today on cadences. Let's just get started. So, what is a cadence? A cadence is the term that we use for the end of a musical phrase. And this can be achieved in several different ways. It can be achieved melodically, it can be achieved rhythmically, it can be achieved texturally. It can be achieved in really kind of any way that your sort of imagination takes you, as it were. But in Western tonal music, we tend to talk about cadences in terms of harmony. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today, these sort of harmonic cadences. There are four main types of cadence in Western tonal music, and they are a perfect cadence, a plagal cadence, an imperfect cadence, and an interrupted cadence. So we'll just look at them in turn. Here we are. We've got a perfect cadence on the left, and a perfect cadence goes from chord 5 in a key to chord 1 in a key. I'll just play that example so you've got a basis for what it sounds like. Cool, so that's a perfect cadence. And on the right, you've got what's known as a plagal cadence. So again, I'll play through those two chords. Okay, super. So I've grouped those two cadences together because those two cadences, because they end on chord 1, because they end on the tonic, sound finished. They sound complete. It's almost as though we've come to the conclusion of a particular idea. And so if we were going to make a comparison with punctuation, these two cadences would feel very much like full stops. It's worth noting that there's a kind of divide between how they're used. So a perfect cadence we hear more often in classical music. So Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, but also sort of 19th century composers, Brahms, Mendelssohn, Mahler. A lot of their music revolves around trying to get to a perfect cadence, whereas plagal cadences appear most often in folk music and pop music, and in religious music. It's sometimes known as the Amen cadence. So there's perfect and plagal cadences. Let's look at the other side of the coin now. So here we've got imperfect and interrupted cadences. On the left, I've got an interrupted cadence, and that starts on chord 5 and ends on anything but 1. I'll just play the example that you've got. So there's an interrupted cadence. The idea with this one is that we're sort of expecting a perfect cadence. We're on chord 5, and we might expect to go to chord 1, but we end up on another chord, usually chord 6, and that means that we need to carry on. We need to continue. We need to find a way of achieving a conclusion with a perfect cadence or perhaps a plagal cadence. I'll just play the imperfect cadence on the right. And again, this sounds incomplete. This sounds unfinished because we've ended on chord 5. And indeed, that's what an imperfect cadence does. We start on any chord, usually chord 1, 2, or 4, and we end on chord 5. And because we've ended on chord 5, it feels as though we need to go back to the tonic somehow. So these two cadences, the interrupted cadence and the imperfect cadence, both sound incomplete. It sounds as though we need to carry on. Okay, so we've talked about the four main types of cadences now. Let's see if we can identify some of these cadences on the page. So, first thing we need to think about when we're identifying a cadence is just identifying the key. So I'm going to look at the key signature here, and I've got 4 flats, and I know, because I know my circle of fifths really well, that this is likely to be A flat major. But if I didn't know my circle of fifths very well, I could probably just use my shortcut. I could look at the penultimate flat, So we've got B, E, A, D. The penultimate flat is A flat, so it's definitely going to be A flat major. It could be F minor, but looking at this, there's no sort of E naturals that I'd expect. And indeed, we've got a kind of an A flat here and an E flat there. So I'm really expecting this to be an A flat major. And now we're going to look at the chords. Let's have a look at the chords that we've got. So just focusing on the last two chords of the extract, we've got an E flat, a G and a B flat. So that kind of looks like chord 5. We've got this D flat here, which slightly complicates the situation, but E flat, G, B flat, we're looking at chord 5, and that D flat is just a sort of an extra note. It's the 7th in the chord. So that's chord 5 in A flat major. And then we've got an A flat, C and an A flat in that final chord. A flat, C and A flat, that very much looks like chord 1. So I would say we're going chord 5 to chord 1 here. And now we're looking at, if we look at those bass notes, we look at those chords, we're going 5, 1, that's going to be a perfect cadence. Absolutely, no doubt about it. And in fact, if I play this extract, it should feel a lot like a perfect cadence. It should feel like we've come to a full stop. Right, there we go. There's our perfect cadence on the page. Let's have a look at another couple of examples. Right, so let's start with the example on the left. Again, I'm going to start by identifying the key. We've got 1 flat in the key signature. Because I know my circle of fifths very well, I know that that's very likely to be F major. If I didn't, I suppose I could go back and think about... I suppose actually here there isn't really a penultimate flat, is there? So the shortcut doesn't particularly work here in this instance. So we'll just have to sort of know from our circle of fifths that this is F major. So that's sorted. I'm very confident that it's F major because there's no sort of extra accidentals. And we've got sort of an F as our very final note here. So I'm going to think about our chords. So if I just look at the bass notes again, we've got a C and an F. So I'm kind of expecting it to be a kind of chord 5 to chord 1. And now just looking through the notes, I'll start with the final chord. That's F, A and F. That's very much chord 1 again. If I go here, we've got C, G, B flat. You kind of see that there's an F here, but it's tied over. And if we look at the rest of the notes in the group, we've got an E, a G, and an E. So we've got C, G, B flat. And we've got this E, G, E. The best fit here is chord 5. So we're going from chord 5 to chord 1. Again, we've got that 7th in the chord. So this very much looks like it's going to be a perfect cadence. And in fact, I've grouped this one in as well. So we've got this, we've got C, F, A, and then we've got this G going to F. But again, the best fit here is really C, F, A, and F. So that's chord 1, chord 1C, chord 1 in second inversion. So that's going 1C, 5, 1. Because it's going from 5 to 1 again, it's going to be a perfect cadence. I'll just play that at the piano to give you a sense of what it sounds like. And indeed, it does sound like a perfect cadence. It sounds finished. Right, moving on to the example on the right. So I've got 2 sharps in the key signature. So it's going to be either D major or B minor. And just looking through this extract, I can see that we've got some A sharps. And because we've got these A sharps, I'm pretty confident that it's B minor. A sharp is the 7th step of a B minor, of B natural minor scale. It's been sharpened to give us this sort of like kind of proper sort of harmonic minor feel. So in this case, I'm pretty confident it's definitely B minor. And now I'm just going to look at the bass notes first. So we've got an F sharp here, which is the 5th step of B minor, and we've got a G, which is the 6th step of B minor. So I think we're kind of looking at an interrupted cadence here, but I'm just going to look at the notes at the top to see if that confirms my suspicion. Right, it's relatively complicated, but we've got an F sharp, a C sharp, and an F sharp. So that kind of looks like chord 5. And if we just, that B's being held over and is dropping to the A sharp. So we could, if we kind of, and in fact this F sharp's being held 3. So we've got F sharp, C sharp, F sharp, A sharp. That's going to be chord 5 in B minor. And then if we look here, we've got chord 6, I think. So, but again, it's relatively complicated because we've got this sort of extra thing here. But this is being held over. It's kind of like the bass note changes before the rest of the chords. So we've got the bass note of chord 6 here, and then actually on the next beat, we get the B, D, and the B again, which are the missing notes, the rest of the notes in chord 6. G, B, D, B. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that's going from chord 5 to chord 6, and therefore it's going to be an interrupted cadence. I'll just play through this extract again, just so you've got a sense of what it sounds like, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. And so hopefully that should still feel quite incomplete. It still feels like we need to move on. We need to go somewhere else. Right, I hope that's been helpful. I hope now that your kind of knowledge of cadences has been kind of either refreshed or improved, and that you're maybe feeling a bit more comfortable with identifying cadences on the page. Thank you very much, and see you next time.